This is Brother Ron, and welcome to We All Be News Radio and TV, the news-free Dixie for the 21st century.
Hello, Judge. Are you there?
Yes, sir.
All right, excellent. We All Be is under heaven on once again the one and only the Honorable Judge Joe Brown. He got the word about what's going down, not only in your town but all around the world. How you doing tonight, sir?
All right, young man. I'm doing fine.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad to hear that, man. I know you've been pretty busy. You've been a person in demand, and people always ask me on the streets, "What Judge think about what's going on with this?" I mean, your wisdom is sought out there, and it's very much appreciated by your fans and your growing fan base online. But I want to ask you about a couple of things. I know we talked early in August, but now it's September the 1st. And I got to get your thoughts about the legacy and the man known as the late Senator John McCain. What are your thoughts about him?
Well, he had a long legacy he had to build on. He didn't embarrass it. He became a U.S. Senator, but his daddy was an admiral of some note in the U.S. Navy. McCain did his share of personal heroics. Some wanted to get on him about his performance as a POW, but what they put people through these days isn't what used to be the case. He said it well. The U.S. should not be about torture, because if you tortured, then you might get your own people tortured that way. I noted some Korean War vets who advised me that when they were prisoners with the communists, they got a lot of slack because they were told Americans did not torture prisoners. Now, somewhere between what happened in 1951, 2, and 3, and what the CIA and other entities did between there and the middle of the Vietnam situation, sort of destroyed that, so they did get jacked around when they were held in detention. So just remember, what goes around comes around. So it's a good idea, considering how bad war can be, to add a little bit of maneuverability to it when it comes to treatment of inmates and prisoners. We have done pretty well with our system of due process and the law, and sometimes it's discouraging when bozos who claim to be in the know think that we should abandon due process in terms of something expedited for the expedience of the moment. It doesn't work too well. McCain, as a legislator, was not one of the worst. Some people wanted to hold it against him that he didn't want the holiday made into what it was. Well, let's be frank, there were a lot of black folk, particularly young ones back in the 60s and 70s, who were what were then known as militants, who didn't think so either, but it is what it is. I'd be willing to forgive him a lot because he's got black family members. And by that, I mean he's got black grandchildren, at least as they meet the definition of black. They look more black than Obama does, let alone his kids. So your legacy gets extended to your grandchildren, and there's something special to you. You know that if you've ever had any, or you have contemplated having any. And McCain had a black daughter-in-law. She was a naval officer who met her son in the Navy, and they got married, so she never got mistreated by the McCain family. I say, there you go. McCain was somebody that stepped up to the plate for his set of circumstances. So I can't hold that against him.
But do you feel like, as far as being a POW, did he get people killed by revealing certain sensitive information?
No, that war was so goddamn clumsy the way they ran it. There is a guy named Clausewitz.
Okay.
He's a Prussian general. He wrote a book whose German name is Vom Krieg. It means in English translation, On War. And he sort of synthesized what war was all about, and he noted specifically, he said, war is but the ultimate extension of the political process. He said, and whether or not you win the war on the battlefield, if it's so unpopular or at home that you wind up getting turned out of office, then you have been defeated. You need to keep all of these things in consideration, and unless you are compelled to fight a defensive war, you should think strongly about resolving any situation with diplomacy before you get to war, since war is but the ultimate extension of the political process. It was dead right, and according to Clausewitz, we were going to lose that war anyway. There was no way to win it because essentially the only way the U.S. could have won was to have flattened the whole country, and that would have defeated our purposes. So there was no plausible purpose other than ego for being in the doggone thing. I think Johnson was in over his head, and he got misled by some of his generals.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, they were still trying to fight a situation centered on Europe rather than in Southeast Asia. Another thing was that I don't think that the powers that be, let alone the American public, understood the hornet's nest they were getting into. At the time, the United States had 198 million people. Vietnam's total population was somewhere between 130 and 140 million people. To give you an idea and a perspective about that, Nazi Germany was only somewhere between 40 and 60 million people, depending upon how you counted it. And it took roughly 12 million men in American uniforms plus 9 million in Russian uniform to subdue the Nazis. So 500,000, 500,000 wasn't going to do it for 130 to 140 million when it took almost 20 some million to subdue 40 to 60 million. The numbers just weren't there.
Okay, let me ask you this then. I'm thinking about myself when you said about McCain and about his situation as POW. What if John McCain was a black man from the Mississippi Delta with no type of connections, like a father who was an admiral or had, connections to the White House? What would have happened to him based on the things that people accused John McCain of doing while in prison? Would he have been court-martialed or executed?
No, probably not much. If his father hadn't been an admiral, nobody would have paid much attention to him, and he certainly wouldn't have been executed. He wasn't the only prisoner of war, POW, who did what he did. And then you have to give him this consideration. He refused to get furloughed or released early until they released everybody after the war was essentially wound down. You've got an individual here in Memphis who had a comparable situation that occurred some years earlier. He was black. He defected to the Chinese, to the communists, when he was a prisoner of war in Korea, and he became Mao Zedong's principal personal advisor on the black problem in America.
Mm-hmm.
He wound up getting 6 degrees from the University of Beijing, and his mother got ill, and he came back. He got tried for treason. He got acquitted. And he set up an Oriental food place here for the benefit of those people who actually were from China. And he married the daughter of a deposed Chinese warlord. He died peacefully a few years ago. His name, we know him as Skip, but he was cool and he had a Chinese place. And the real Chinese would eat there when they visited the area.
Oh, interesting. That's a hell of a story right there. That should be a movie.
Yeah, it should be.
Is his relatives still around? Do you have any children or grandchildren?
Yeah, he's got several children.
What happened to the business? Is it still open or still running?
It's been sold.
Okay. But I was just talking to somebody about it.
Several, actually, but they were
Okay.
sold.
Now, I was just talking to some people the other day. I said, when will black folks start owning like Chinese and Mexican restaurants? It's like all the Chinese people own soul food restaurants when they come here, and they're very popular among black people.
Chinese restaurants and the real Chinese diplomats and consulate, when they came through here, that's where they ate.
So that's interesting. That's a story that needs to be known. I mean, that's an incredible story, actually. I was thinking about Robert F. Williams too. I mean, was he there at the same time Robert F. Williams was there with his wife Mabel?
Well, this was back in the early 50s.
Okay. Oh, the early 50s. Okay.
So he stayed in China until the Gulf Revolution was over, and then he came back to America when his mother was sick, and he submitted to trial, but he was acquitted. So he ran a Chinese food business. He ran several.
Do you think he was utilized by the U.S. intelligence authorities to get intel about China?
No, they got upset because he wouldn't say too much.
Oh, really? And they allowed him to come back with him? Okay, wow, okay.
That's why they tried him for treason, but they couldn't get him found guilty.
Okay, let me ask you this then. Let me think about, you remember back in 2004 when John Kerry, who was people consider a war hero, and he protested against Vietnam once he came back. You remember the Swift Boat Veterans for Justice was launched against him?
Oh, that was so much nonsense. Mm-hmm. See, I'll give you this. If you are anywhere in the hot fire zone where you can get taken out by a mortar round, a stray bullet, an artillery round, or a rocket, you were there. Mm-hmm. You're going out on regular patrols, you were there.
Mm.
So that's just carping by people who didn't like his politics.
And also, I was thinking about the Vietnam. Yes, sir.
Is the only one. You had Al Gore. He could have gone in as an officer, but he went in as a private.
Mm. Oh,
served the whole tour out there in the boonies.
What about George W. Bush, though? He got, 5 deferments or whatever.
Bush was a jerk. One thing about Bush, see, all that whole flim-flam about him being AWOL from the Texas Air National Guard.
Right.
What it was about is they started having such a problem with drugs that they made everybody on flight crew status take a P test once a week. He stayed AWOL because he couldn't have passed it. He was a junkie. He did coke and the herb. See, he was a drunk. He did cocaine and he did herb. And if you go up to where Yale is located, and you take the town tour and you look at the entry book for the police department, you'll see all these times they busted George W. for public drunk and disorderly.
Wow.
He couldn't get a date according to his frat brothers, and his mama had to get him dates, and half the time they had to go rescue the date when George W. was passed out drunk.
And was he? Wow.
Bill Clinton were in the same fraternity, but it was not this other one that George W. was in with his daddy, known as Skull and Bones.
Okay.
Bill Clinton wasn't in that
one. And also, was George W. a cheerleader at Yale? Was he a football cheerleader or something like that?
Cheerleader at Andover.
Okay, because people talk about these.
They called Andover Bendover. And accordingly, he got embarrassed many times when his mama Barbara would take her shoes off and get down on the field and start helping the cheerleaders squad lead cheers in her bare feet.
Wow. That George W. was a regular old Harry Truman, it seems like.
Well, he was a clown. He used to sit in class and chew tobacco and spit in a paper cup. Everybody thought it was nasty as hell, and they all thought he was an ignorant fool with the nonsense he'd spout that was totally off point. He thought Catcher in the Rye was a communist plot.
Mm. So, I used to think that Jeb was the smarter Bush son, but I guess
he was.
What happened?
See, George W. got in on a legacy. And a year after he was admitted on the legacy of his daddy, they stopped it. And you had to get in on grades and aptitude tests. See, George Herbert Walker
Mm-hmm.
went into the military directly out of high school. And as a matter of fact, he has an interesting, unique distinction in the whole military apparatus of World War II. He
Okay.
was quite literally the youngest pilot in the U.S. military, combat pilot in the U.S. military.
Hmm.
He was a naval pilot. He got shot down in a TBF torpedo plane, and perhaps unfortunately for the country, he almost got captured. If he had been captured, it was at a place called Iwo Jima, I-T-O, not Iwo.
Okay.
And the commandant there was a little sadist. He used to take the American pilots, kill them, and barbecue their livers, and they would have a party with sake and barbecued liver.
Wow.
He just barely managed to not get swept in by the tides on this rubber raft he was on, and wound up getting picked up some days later and rescued. Otherwise, we would have had a footnote. He was a barbecue menu item rather than the president. He wasn't a very good one, but he was sensible enough not to totally depose Hussein and leave a power vacuum like this idiot son of his did.
Yeah, but he produced that idiot song. That's what I'm saying.
Well, they didn't like him in the family.
Mm-hmm. But maybe we would have been better off if he did get, barbecued. I'm just joking.
So what I'm saying. Jeb was supposed to be the one, and the family looked at George Wacko, as ruining it for Jeb. I know that the word was that George Herbert Walker Bush had to buy off a number of young ladies that George W. got knocked up when he wasn't whacked out drunk.
Wow.
I mean, he did a whole lot of crazy stuff according to the police blotter up there where Yale is. Now, see, his father, George W., aside from being the youngest combat pilot in the American military in World War II, got back out, went to school at Yale. After he got out, he was captain of the football team, captain of the baseball team, and he got his 4-year college degree in just 2 years and graduated summa cum laude.
Okay.
And was Phi Beta Kappa. That was George Herbert Walker Bush, not his dumb George W. Bush. Now, the L.A. Times reported his GPA and SAT when he got in, and the SAT wasn't that high, and he had a 1.7 grade average, which was a D grade average to get in Yale on a legacy thing.
Man, what if George W. Bush was a black dude with those type of credentials?
He wouldn't have got past Yale.
He wouldn't have been president. He would have been a lot of things. Wow, that's amazing. So white privilege is real.
He's a real clown.
Wow.
See, this is interesting.
Okay.
George W.'s grandfather, George Herbert Walker Bush's father, was Prescott Bush.
Mm-hmm.
Prescott Bush had been United States Senator from Massachusetts, and when he retired, John F. Kennedy got his seat.
You sure that wasn't Connecticut and it was Herbert Lodge that Kennedy got seat from, the Lodge guy?
That was Massachusetts. It was Prescott Bush. Now, the other thing about Prescott Bush, even though he was a Republican, he backed up and encouraged Harry Truman to sign Executive Bill 1981 that integrated the armed services. See, they were discussing that, and white generals were saying black folk were incompetent. But there is an anecdotal story that says, as Commander-in-Chief, Truman was looking at the report for Red Flag, which was the fighter competition that the U.S. Army Air Corps had 1946, 1947, and then again in 1948. And he noted that the black folk from the Tuskegee Airmen, the 332nd, won it in 1946, and he had just gotten an announcement that they had won again in 1947 while these generals were telling them that they were incompetent to do stuff like fly fighter planes. He'd also gotten the advisement that they weren't allowed to receive their trophies in the Reno hotel or casino where the celebration was to be held. Now, as a result of that, Truman took the risky step for a white politician of being the first U.S. president ever to address the NAACP.
Mm-hmm.
And he made a famous speech that got later suppressed, and he said he could see no earthly reason why Negro Americans should not and could not and would not be treated the same as white ones when it came to politics, residences, and everything else. So he signed 1981, Executive Order 1981, and Prescott Bush encouraged him. Another thing, Prescott Bush backed up Eisenhower when he took on that rabid clown, Joe McCarthy, who was going around, McCarthy, who was running around trying to make everybody a commie. Another thing, too, when King was getting bailed out of jail during the Civil Rights era, it developed that Prescott Bush was basically the surety on every bond that needed one. So he was from Massachusetts. George Herbert Walker Bush had relocated to Texas to deal with energy. Now, the great-grandfather, not grandfather, the uncle to George Herbert Walker Bush was George Herbert Walker. In 1946 and 47, George Herbert Walker chartered Halliburton in Oklahoma. Halliburton had been chartered in 1919 and then allowed to go defunct, but George Herbert Walker rechartered it in 1946, and Halliburton was about energy. So George Herbert Walker Bush, his nephew, made a lot of money by listening to the advice of Uncle Herbie and buying up the mineral rights of property holders who had holdings that surrounded what became oil strikes. So they'd go in and pay cash for 5, 10, 15, 20, 25% of the mineral rights and then start hitting it big within a year or two. George Herbert Walker Bush founded Zapata Oil Company to handle that. Now, interestingly enough, the Walker Bush family had a holding company to handle all of their enterprises, and it was known as Zapata Offshore Oil Inc. And believe it or not, it was chartered in Kuwait. Now, there might be a coincidence or it might be the cause, but when the U.S. got involved in the Iraq-Iran-Kuwait situation in 1990, or rather the Iraq-Kuwait situation, it just so happens that when Hussein had invaded Kuwait and nationalized everything, that nationalized the Bush family fortune, so they were destitute until they went in and took Kuwait back. Kuwait had been separated off in 1922 from Iraq so the Royal Navy could get oil. The British government bought 51% of a company known as Anglo-Persian Oil, which is now BP, so they could exploit the oil resources, and sent the Royal Marines in and split off Kuwait. There were the shenanigans on that. You've heard of this Lawrence of Arabia. They did a movie.
Oh, yeah. I was just thinking about that when you said that. Yes, sir.
Well, his task was to go find some place that they could annex for oil, and that was Kuwait.
Mm-hmm.
But it's an interesting hookup. And then you get rabidly right-wing George W. Bush, who was just an irresponsible, dumb jerk, who might have been cunningly brilliant to set the Bush family up to move to a different level of wealth. The Bush family started in enterprise when a great-grandfather started up an iron foundry in Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
And then after World War I, that Bush had become identified by Carnegie and Rockefeller, and they bought up a lot of the German war-making industry after World War I and consolidated it and appointed that Bush to be head of the corporate holding company that managed them. So all through the 20s, 30s, and World War II, that Bush was getting a check from the Nazi Germans who were depending upon that war industry to make their tank engines and a few other things. The Bush family had been into what they call paper entrepreneurialism. That is, instead of running a company, you buy the company up and sell off its assets for gain. You were into international information, read I Spy stuff, and into energy development. That's what the Bush family's been into for more than 100 years. Now, when the Gulf War II started, it developed that France, Russia, the U.S., and some others were attempting to influence Hussein into having him sign a contract to let Halliburton exploit the Iraqi oil. He did not do that, and he signed a contract with the French and the Russians. So there is a plausible theory that we got involved with all this sham about weapons of mass destruction to give us bogus justification for going in there so Halliburton could exploit the oil. Now, they wound up exploiting the oil resources of Kuwait. They got the position without bid at the end of the fracas in 2007 and 8. And the last I checked 10 years ago, Halliburton was netting $2.3 million every 7 hours over there. So that may have been a brilliant, cunning effort to set up a fortune for the family. Also, the thing about here, Afghanistan. You notice we invaded Afghanistan in 2001, not 2003, under the pretext that Al-Qaeda was over there. But it's interesting to note that Halliburton had been attempting to get pipeline rights, understanding Halliburton is actually a Bush family enterprise. Now, George Walker Bush signed an executive order in May 2001 giving the Taliban $45 million in military aid, principally night vision devices, which came back and haunted them. That was in May 2001. That was before September 9/11. But coincidence, this something that, of course, the press overlooked because it wasn't salacious enough. They'll cover somebody giving a head job or having a little sexual escapade, but they won't cover anything like that. Anyway, that's a long about connection between the Bushes and what happened. We get away from McCain, but McCain was not a bad character as far as Republicans go, and a lot of Democrats in Arizona supported him over your typical run-of-the-mill Democratic offering, who basically was about who pees in what bathroom rather than actually doing anything worthwhile.
Yeah, I liked John McCain back in 2000 in terms of his Straight Talk Express when he was running for president. I thought George W. Bush did him wrong in South Carolina primary. But since that time, I don't know. I don't think he really was a maverick to me. Where is his landmark legislation that speaks of his maverick? You know, what did he get done in 30 years plus as a senator?
Well, see, you have to understand, before you can come up with landmark legislation, you have to be head of somebody's committee.
Okay.
And if you have a position that's too unpopular with the power, the party in power, and that's your party, you're not going to get those positions. He didn't do badly in what he did support. And I think the Republicans, I predict, are going to make him a scapegoat behind affordable health care. But you have to understand, I don't think they're really going to do too much to affordable health care because we think of it as Obamacare, but actually it was senior Republican U.S. Senator from the state of Tennessee, Dr. Bill Frist, who, when he was Republican Senate Majority Leader, drafted Affordable Care, and basically the primary beneficiaries to what is known as Obamacare are those insurance companies and HMOs that his family founded. See, they founded Blue Cross, Blue Shield, etc., so they're making a killing off of it.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't get that reported by the press.
My thing is, well, I think it's kind of weird that people are full of crap. The same folks that believe in Santa Claus and Tooth Fairies are the same ones that act like George W. Bush didn't commit these crimes against humanity, where they want to just invite Donald Trump for funerals. But wasn't not George W. Bush with Afghanistan and 9/11 happened on his watch and the Iraqi war? What about these things, Katrina?
Well, yeah, but you see, here's the deal. Every president you have had recently has been a friend of LGBTQ.
Okay.
Hollywood, advertisement, and the news media have been about LGBTQ.
Mm-hmm.
Most of their executives and the membership thereof are the same thing. So Trump is an enemy of their program. So without them telling you, that's why they attack him. And a lot of stuff they bring out about him is worse in the commission by several of the last few presidents, but they didn't bring that out.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't bring it out, and they just generally attack him. And because they attack him and wish to associate him with certain elements of society that we should hear about, we now hear about it, whereas they ignored it before.
Mm-hmm.
The press is famous and infamous for that. For example, they wanted to take this thing that sleaze Nancy Grace left us with, and that is the impression that O.J. killed Goldman and Nicole.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't. It was a piss poor case. And they ran with that, but what they did not cover was that 4 of the primary detectives had to wind up doing jail time for falsifying evidence to the extent that California had released, I believe the number was 128 convicted felons from the California penitentiary for having been framed by 4 of the principal detectives on the O.J. case.
Was that the Rampart thing? Was that Rampart?
Yeah, Rampart scandal. That's exact. Now, wouldn't that have made a difference? 4 detectives intimately involved in the O.J. case go to jail for framing defendants and planting falsified evidence.
Oh, yes, sir. But like you said, the news don't care about that. They care about just sex and sex and sex.
Or that black man allegedly killed a white woman. Actually, the evidence is so overwhelmingly not in favor of O.J.'s guilt. It's just pathetic to see how they even screw their crazy brains around it, the way they report it. But that's because of sleazebag Nancy Grace. That was her first assignment, and she carried it off like she was there every day. When my sources, who were actually there, say she came in every evening asking what was going on and trying to throw money around to buy information.
So it's like she's doing like some gonzo reporting then. Like, no, they do.
Yeah, this sleaze tabloid reporting. She still does it. You can see it, but for some reason, America forgets that she was the source of all of those condemning stories on O.J. that were not founded on reality.
But with Hollywood, speaking of that, Hollywood has now made the narrative that O.J. did it. They come off these O.J. movies every so often and documentaries and whatnot. And so now they got the millennials thinking that O.J. did it. The younger folks don't know.
I saw all the evidence they had in the evidence room.
Mm-hmm.
There are footprints in the blood on the scene. One of them is by a size 9 shoe, and the other one's by a 10 and a half. And OJ wears 12, not 9 or 10 and a half.
Mm-hmm.
The glove, if it did not fit, you must have quit. He wore in that glove, according to the maker, a person named Richard Zucker wore a size XXL, and the glove was a size large, not XXL. And the person who wore that size glove and who found it was Furman. The whole thing about the bloody socks at the foot of the bed, well, Nancy Grace didn't sit in and look at it. And what she did not tell the public about, the public still doesn't know about, is that LAPD security squad took a video of the scene. At 9:14, you see the foot of the bed there, no socks. At about 9:20 something, you hear the people who are taking it, and there's audio on it, say, "Excuse me, who are you?" "Detective Furman, you'll have to leave the house." And not long after that, "Detective Furman, what are you doing in the bedroom?" And then they pan the camera up so you can see Furman standing right there at the foot of the bed, and them telling him he's got to leave the house. A while later, you see another video shot by crime scene about a half hour, 45 minutes later, and there where you saw no bloody socks at 1:14, there are bloody socks just where you saw Furman standing in the video when they told him he had to leave the house. See, nobody who grew up in L.A. would believe LAPD would tell the truth about anything.
Right.
So, was it a race card? No. Was it the fact that Nicole was a junkie who owed every big-time dealer in West Hollywood and in West L.A. a whole bunch of money? Was it the case that Goldman was just a little hanger-on and Nicole was known as a fag hag with good drugs and he was just over there incidentally to get high?
What about the Faye Resnick thing? I mean, I heard her folks was involved in organized crime. The Resnick were powerful organized crime people.
Well, Faye Resnick, not really.
Okay.
But what was involved was that two of Nicole's sisters were dating organized crime figures who were in the federal witness protection program, who, according to testimony elicited during a hearing at trial, believed the message was sent to them to be quiet.
Wow. So this is stuff that needs to be known, but like I said, people don't really...
Well, it was on TV. They covered it.
Yeah, but people got short memories. You know how people are.
No, but see, people didn't look at it. They relied on that sleazeball Nancy Grace to report. Like she said, the DNA evidence, I listened to it. She said, it's just overwhelming. There's no way OJ can overcome this. So I taped every scrap of it in my chambers. I was a judge. So I listened to it that evening. And the expert who had taught the other two experts said, this isn't OJ's blood sample. It's from someone from similar background, but it does not exclude, I think the number was 96,000 other people in the L.A. County area. And interestingly enough, it would tend to indicate someone with northeastern Mediterranean extraction, or perhaps from the Isle of Sicily, which is interesting in terms of the organized crime figures in witness protection. See, they slit both throats from ear to ear and took pliers and pulled the tongues out of the incision after they had been stabbed one time with a fatal stab wound. And I have a personal friend who's called as an expert by the state. He said no one person did this. It was a two-man hit. Hell, look, you got the footprints and the blood. Then it came out in the trial that they had taken a sample of OJ's blood back and contaminated the scene with his blood sample, so the jury threw that out. But that didn't get covered. The Nancy Grace said overwhelming evidence against the defendant. What actually got testified to was the people that had operated the towing facility for LAPD for 27 years testified they went over the Bronco with a fine-tooth comb. When they towed it in, there wasn't a drop of blood in there. The vehicle was secured in a small facility with barbed wire at the top and 4 padlocks on it, with the keys possessed only by LAPD detectives. And when they were instructed to tow the car to the crime lab 11 days later and they got it out of the impound area, it was full of blood. So, I mean, it doesn't get any better than that for the defense. So they just made a false case. But that's no different than the false case they made against James Earl Ray for killing King, which he did not do.
Right.
See, they never should have accepted Ray's plea. The basis for accepting his plea was that they had a rifle that was supposedly the murder weapon, but clear as day in the report they had, the only one was the FBI could not match the rifle they got from Ray with being the murder weapon.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it was no basis for any case at all, and he never did confess.
That's the key to people miss. He never did confess.
Never did confess, and the judge should not have accepted the plea because there was no evidence that the FBI could discern to hook Ray's rifle up with being the murder weapon.
But the way they got him was because the state witness, who was not a great witness, was a drunk, and he lied about.
Witness was not a bad witness, was not a witness. The chief detective who said he was sent over there to get their statement found the 2 so-called witnesses to Ray being in the flop house so intoxicated he could not revive them and had to call 911 to get them transported to the emergency room, where they stayed in intensive care for several days because they were in an alcohol-induced coma. And both of them had approximately twice blood alcohol level to constitute a fatal dose of alcohol for a non-alcoholic.
Now, so this stuff is interesting because this is not the National Civil Rights Museum narrative does not include these type of things that you're talking about.
They changed it in the last 6 months, by the way.
Oh, the hell! So what they're saying now?
Oh, they're saying this may be the rifle. However, there are opinions that it is not now. The other thing is whether the shot came from the flop house where the 2 witnesses had been fatally poisoned by alcohol. And if they had not been taken to the emergency room, they'd be dead. Next thing is the chief detective who got there 15 minutes after the killing said couldn't have been from the flop house because there was a tree growing between the Lorraine Motel and the window to the flop house bathroom. They came back an hour later and the tree had been cut down. It was laying there on the ground.
So you actually had, like in Dallas, you had some police or law officials that are trying to do their job, and you had other people running interference at a high level.
Nobody in law enforcement concluded that Ray did it. The conclusion of the Memphis Police Department's homicide squad was Ray was not the gunman. He wasn't even in town.
So why has this been suppressed? I don't. Who's running interference?
And if they hadn't had the inconvenience of having had me get involved with it, then I'll just take them for their word. They objected to me continuing on the case because they said I knew more about ballistics than their experts did. So bottom line was, as I looked at it, they not only did not prove a case, they were actually proving Ray had nothing to do with it. They actually exculpated him.
What I'm saying is, it's like the system is guilty of allowing this man to spend all the time in jail and then allow him to die.
Yeah, that's the problem. Why are the prosecutors prosecuting somebody that the Homicide Bureau says is not the killer?
So what that means, and what they say about is there a conspiracy to keep this? Is there an inside job to?
There was a conspiracy.
Okay.
What I ultimately came up with is there were 5 weapons that matched the specifics of what was necessary to have fired the fatal bullet. They were invoiced to the FBI in late December 1967. The Defense Department wanted them back, and in late April 1968, after they made repeated demands, the FBI conducted an inventory, and this particular one is missing. They claim they don't know what happened to it. That's the murder weapon.
So is the FBI guilty? Are they the government party
They
that's guilty?
supplied the weapon.
So that make them guilty, right? Well, you say they're guilty.
Yes, it does.
Okay. So why we can't tell that truth then? Like, we found them guilty in the court of law, right, back in December '99.
CD did not get found guilty.
Okay.
He pled guilty under what they call an Alford plea, A.L.L. versus North Carolina. It stands for the principle that even if a person's not guilty, he may be allowed to plead guilty if, quote, he does so freely and voluntarily, understandingly, knowingly, advisedly, and intelligently, and the state otherwise has a reasonable factual basis upon which to continue the prosecution independently of the plea of guilty. Now, the only thing they had was the rifle, but then when you get into the record, it's clear that the FBI says they can't match the rifle up with being the murder weapon. So they had none. They should have never allowed his plea.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, with the civil trial, when the jury said that the government was complicit.
Yeah, they did.
And also in another civil trial, you think about Fred Hampton.
There was one civil trial, and they found another somebody was most likely to kill her. What that was about was still confusion, because it's my opinion that they had 4, maybe 5 alternative scapegoats to blame. And they blamed the one that was not in Memphis because he was the most screwed up in terms of a petty criminal record.
So I was going to say, like, with, you know, you look at, we had Fred Hampton Sr., the Black Panther in Chicago. He was killed by the police.
I don't even put all that in there.
Well, I was saying, like, they had a civil trial in '82 that found them guilty. The government was complicit in his death, too.
Yeah, I know. They were. But see, I don't put the Panther Party in there. I used to be the community liaison for the UCLA BSU. So I wound up becoming closely allied with the Panther Party. I recruited John Huggins, Bunchy Carter, Nathaniel Clark, Elaine Brown, and Geronimo Pratt to UCLA under a special program. I recruited them. We used to hang out and talk a lot together. I know what went down on that, and see, there's a whole lot of other nonsense about that is basically a romantic fabrication and mythology. So I'm not worried about what happened with Fred Hampton. I have not looked at the record, and I won't speak on anything that I don't have any either investigative involvement in or knowledge of the record about.
But his bodyguard, his chief bodyguard, Wayne O'Neill, was an informant. And
well, they had, look, let me tell you something. One of the real problems with the 60s is that they had it going on. Everybody was galvanized and motivated to do the right thing. But somewhere around 68, 69, it started coming out that every other person that was a member was somehow or another connected with some special police investigative unit or the FBI. So you shouldn't me, you know. And all of it, like Kwanzaa, I won't celebrate Kwanzaa. Because at the time we knew Ron Everett, a.k.a. Ron Karenga, a.k.a. the Maulana Ron Karenga. He was an informant for LAPD's SIS unit and the FBI, and he started Kwanzaa in Lamert Park right off of Crenshaw in 1966 so he could get black folk talking and find out more information to feed to the FBI and LAPD's SIS unit.
No, Judge, I hear you talk about this stuff. This is what I'm saying. This is my concern. Like with the John McCain whitewashing of his legacy right now, and then you telling me this stuff, but yet people still celebrate Kwanzaa. Like, you got all this information that's available. Sir?
You couldn't get me in 10 yards of a Kwanzaa celebration.
But our people don't, like, I'm just saying, like, you can Google this stuff, what you're saying, even the stuff we put out, what you're saying, the content that you produce about this. People can find information for themselves.
I was there, goddammit. I saw that sleazy son of a bitch do what he did.
But why won't our people listen?
I heard him. I got yanked in by the FBI over and over again and interrogated on my verbatim statement. Said I saw these SOBs take down shorthand.
Mm-hmm. But what I'm saying is, like, what can we do to help better educate our people about the seriousness of what Karinga did to his own people?
Here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody associates it with Kwanzaa. So I mean Kwanzaa and Ron Karinga.
Okay.
Ron Everett.
Mm-hmm.
When I first ran into Ron Everett, he had a fake Jamaican accent. He was student body president at L.A. City College.
Okay.
All right. Then he got into that. Well, there's much that the black man needs to know. House Smith's not at all necessary for you to wear your head because my line will teach you. You know, and he had been talking, my brothers, that is the thing which we must need to do, you know, when I first ran into him.
Wow.
Okay. So it is what it is. So the question is do you leave the myth going and get some people galvanized to do something off of black pride, or do you let them have the reality? You know, that's like you got a kid. Do you tell him what the reality is with Santa Claus, or you just let him be happy in his or her ignorance?
Well, you could make the case about the Jesus figure. I mean, that's another story, but...
Well, no, I'll make a case with that, too.
Okay.
And frankly, I'll say this. I know it offends a lot of people.
It is what it is.
As much as white folk and black folk have been praying to that entity and the results that white folk have gotten, we need to find something else.
Yeah, I hear you, Judge. I hear you. Cause you know what, interesting, Judge? I went down to Birmingham a couple years ago to the 16th Street Baptist Church where them 4 little girls were killed. And you know, the dynamite that those white folks put in their church was so powerful that it blew up a stained glass image of a white Jesus. And them black folks, just after that happened, they put up another white stained glass Jesus, a white Jesus in stained glass. And
isn't it funny?
But it took white folks from England and Wales to raise money and put a black Jesus in stained glass in their church.
Y'all, isn't it funny?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's funny, like in a sad way.
It's like, okay, man. You know, like you white folk, they picked up Christianity because they compared it to the old pagan gods, and they got convinced that this Jesus something or another was stronger, so they switched over. Why don't we do that same kind of comparison? What have we gotten out of it compared to what the white folks gotten out of it? You praying to be delivered from slavery, and they're praying to keep their slaves peaceful.
Who won?
What is Douglas said? He prayed for years and years to be delivered from slavery, so he decided to let his legs do the praying and walked away from slavery.
That's right. That's right. He knew it was a choice.
Exactly. But you know, I'm not gonna come between somebody and their necessary metaphysics and religion or whatever. Some folk need it, but
why? But Judge, my thing about I don't go to church on a regular, and the reason why because like people are too emotional. They don't want to think with logic, like how a lot of us treat our politics. We get emotional about it instead of being objective and strategic about it, and we get blinded by emotionally our emotions. I mean, I see a lot of men in church. They kind of effeminate to me. They kind of weak, you know. They kind of weak, but they get all the women though. They get all the women, but they kind of effeminate to me. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, and you got those other very effeminate types prancing around up on right next to the pulpit, and according to the religion, they're an abomination.
I mean, it's a strange place to be, man. It's a strange place.
It's like, okay, you know, Islam, Judaism, Christianity, Hindu, Zen Buddhism, you know, Zoroastrianism, you name it.
Right.
If it makes you feel good, makes you float your boats, you know, go for it. Akinwale, Kofi, and the Goondi, you know, Baron Samdi. You know, who's Baron Samdi? We'll go down there to Jamaica, to Haiti, to the Caribbean, ask who Baron Samdi is, and then ask who the Obey Man is, and they'll tell you. But it is what it is.
I know. I talked to some people from the Baja faith. They say they respect all the religions. The Baja faith people.
Yeah, there's Baja, Rick, and you know, it's what it is. If you need it, go for it. But no.
But what if your religion is hindering from you from living a complete and full life? I mean, why are you afraid of death if you believe in heaven?
Well, yeah, that's part of the problem. So many people got a screwed up life; they're scared to die.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they have a really full life. It doesn't make any difference. Hell, after a while, you just say, "I'm tired. I don't feel like being bothered anymore." Was this all it is? Hell, I had a good time. I ain't mad at it.
Yeah, but hey, speaking of that, I thought about what you said about Bill Clinton last time we spoke. Like, you know, you respect a lot Bill Clinton, and I tell you this, I saw a little bit of the.
Let me tell you why I respect Clinton.
Okay.
Got nothing to do with him being president.
Mm-hmm.
Back 1980, 81, something like that. Maybe 82. I got asked to participate in this situation with some voting rights down in Arkansas. So we go to this synagogue for the meetings, and they have these Klansmen and white nationalists outside riding around in flatbed trucks, Klan paraphernalia, Confederate flags, Nazi swastikas and stuff, and they're bad-mouthing everybody and intimidating people. And somebody said, why don't we call the young governor in? So they called in young Clinton. Clinton showed up at the next meeting with he's buffed out then, you know, 6'5", 6'6". So he was there, and all these folk over there cussing, and somebody had a loud heel, and he was being very vulgar. So Clinton asked this preacher to hold his coat. You know, I walked over, and preacher walked over, and Clinton snatched this dude by the collar.
Wow. Okay.
This big dude yanked him up off the ground, rammed him up against the wall, riffled through his pocket, pulled his wallet out, flipped through it till he got to his license, looked at it, stuffed it back in his pocket. He had memorized it that quickly, and told the man where he lived, what his driver's license number was, and said he was coming by to kick his ass if anybody was out there messing with his constituents. He backhanded the dude, snatched the shotgun out of somebody's hand, butt stroked him with it, and walked down the sidewalk, knocked 2 or 3 people completely out. You know, I said,
this is Bill Clinton as a governor of Arkansas did this?
Yeah, governor. I said, go ahead, dude.
Man, he's like an action hero, man. You sure that's Bill Clinton you talking about?
I got your back. So I ain't never had a problem with a man, you know, even if he's on the other side.
Wow. Bill Clinton did that as governor of Arkansas.
Yeah, it's been 36, 38
Yeah,
years.
It's almost 40 years ago. But what I want to say about Bill Clinton, I'll give him his props. I saw what he said at Aretha Franklin's funeral, and I thought it was very powerful what he said. One thing, he's comfortable around black people. He's not afraid of black people.
He used to fuck enough black women.
Hey, I hear he got a black son that look like him. There's a guy that look like him in Arkansas. That is his son. You say he does?
LBJ.
Okay.
LBJ's half black son.
No, I was
white one. One's born in 65, and the other was born in 66.
So you believe that Bill Clinton actually has a black son too? This guy that came out.
I would be surprised if it wasn't more than one. He used to get him some black nookies.
Yeah, because
I guess Hillary would polish it up after he got through.
Well, I'm saying this dude look like him, this mulatto interracial guy. He does look like him. He's in Arkansas, so I hope they can straighten that out. But what I would say about Clinton is that he does the things that Obama does not do. Obama takes black people for granted. He could have showed up to Aretha's funeral and showed the John McCain funeral too, like Bill Clinton did.
Between Obama and Bill Clinton. I'm not talking about the sleazy wife of his. Obama got raised by an Indonesian, that's Asian oil magnate, who ran the death squads for his government. He was a stone cold killer.
That's Barry Soto. Oh, no. Okay.
One of the richest men on the planet Earth. And that's the background Obama got raised in.
Sotoro.
Hillary Clinton's daddy was a drunk, and his mama did the best she could, and he overcame a hell of a lot of adversity to get where he got. Obama didn't have to overcome crap worth of adversity as Barry Sotoro. He was just one of the richest kids on the planet Earth.
Mm.
And that's his background. He thinks white and thinks Indonesian. There is no black in him, except what he came up with opportunistically. When he was the U.S. representative in the state of Illinois, when he became a U.S. senator, he got graded by the Heritage Foundation as one of the A voting conservatives. They gave him an A for his conservative voting. Back in the U.S. Senate, there were only two other people they voted as more conservative, or they rated more conservative. That's what you got. What you see ain't what you get.
Wow.
And he grew up in a network of spies. His daddy was a contractor for the CIA. The Sotoros and the Bush family are all friends.
And why do black folks still in love with this guy? I mean,
we go for image.
God.
We don't go for reality. We go for image. I guess our reality was so crap poor that we just took whatever imagery we could come up with, no matter how ridiculous it was. And what kind of image you have of black folk? They always buck dancing or jumping up and down. They can play instruments, and everybody either stole their music or now they play it in the elevator.
Right. man. I don't want Judge. It's a fascinating time to be alive as a black person. It's like I don't get us a lot of times. Like a lot of times, we don't respect each other. Like you have a black boss. Like I'll tell somebody. They say they feel sorry for homeless white people. I said I don't feel sorry for homeless white people because if they wanted to, they could clean themselves off and go into a place and get a job. Whereas you, as a educated black person, a black man, a lot of times they give you a hard time to do all type of background checks. But as a white person, you get away with that.
And see, I got a pet peeve. It's these damn brothers trying to front off like they all of a sudden got militant.
Right.
They want to talk about all the righteous brothers in the penitentiary and everything else. I say, look, man, these dudes are not in the penitentiary for playing Robin Hood.
Right.
They did not rob from the rich and give to the poor. They robbed their neighbors. They raped the neighbors' daughters or wives or girlfriends. They sold dope to their children. They shot up the neighborhoods and killed folk with stray bullets. They didn't do anything manly to protect the neighborhood. There's some vile, vicious folk. And what the hell? No, I ain't upset because they got jacked up by the crime control bill. Yes, it had a bad impact on us, but damn, we didn't have to make it so damn easy for it to have a bad impact on us.
That's true, too.
And like this crap, you let this little fat butt white girl from the Middle East, Kim Kardashian, talking about Mrs. Johnson. She was just starved for money. She sold one bag of dope. Yeah, and see what they didn't know. We talked about that. The amount of dope that witch went on trial for was 6,600 pounds of 95% pure coke. Ain't no 6 kilos, ain't no 6 bags. That's 3 and a half and a quarter, more than 3 and a quarter tons of 95% pure dope. So when you got that much coke involved, a whole lot of people are dying.
So the DOJ on Obama did the right thing by not giving her a pardon.
Yes, he did.
But Donald Trump, he's into image, and we all into image. Like you said, we more into
all
image.
In the image. And where does your image come from? Some little Middle Eastern white girl with a big butt.
Right. Black man's kryptonite, it seems.
Yeah.
So somebody
how in the hell did Kim Kardashian become identified with black? Last 2 times I saw Jet magazine, they had Kim Kardashian and her big butt up in there.
Right.
Last 2 times I saw Ebony magazine, they got Kim Kardashian in there. What she got a connection with us for?
I mean, just I think black folks, we as a collective, we love white people that much. We are fascinated with white people.
Got a big old butt, so I guess we can claim it.
Right. It's so easy now to get a. It's crazy. It is insane right now. We are messed up collectively.
I think she becomes a political pundit. She and her husband, who know nothing about the subject. They become experts on prison reform.
Right. Well, why not try to advocate for somebody like a Mumia Abu-Jamal, somebody like that?
They don't know who that is. Bottom line is, it's like you talking about political prisoners. See, the problem is in 1960s you got H. Brown,
right.
definitely political prisoner.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, Ron Karinga set him up to get busted.
I didn't know that. Wow.
I was being one of H. Brown's bodyguards when that went down, and Karinga's goons and Karinga personally intruded, and they gave him a carbine and then told the feds that he had transported the carbine and he had a pending case. That's what they busted him for. That's what he went to jail for. Karinga set him up. See, but he was a political prisoner. You had Malcolm X, white America hated him,
Mm-hmm.
he was talking some revolutionary stuff. You had Stokely Carmichael, who was straight up and down there until he started going off in this crazy complex explanation that some peasant in the backwoods area of Africa was supposed to comprehend, as complex as it was, in order to get free, which wasn't going to work. But it was what it was. You had Huey P. Newton. There was an arguable political basis for that. Eldridge Cleaver, you had, let's see, Angela Davis, who was a personal friend of mine. You had all of this stuff going on. So you had some political prisoners. Who's a political prisoner in jail right now?
You know what? H. Brown, he's back. They got him in jail for some questionable charges. Now, he got into a shootout supposedly with some sheriff deputies in Atlanta.
Yeah, they wanted a scalp on there.
Yeah, it's like a question about how it went down.
But his brother had balls, and he ain't selling dope to any kids.
He was cleaning up the neighborhood. They were controlling the neighborhood. They made it into a community.
Exactly. See, now that's a political prisoner. But how many of those do you have in jail now?
Oh, man, that's a good question. I mean,
I was just moving some grams, man. See, they trying to jack up a brother just when he starts getting financially on his feet. God damn, that's poison, fool.
Yeah, well.
Dope ain't never hurt nobody. You tell this to folks that got a crackhead in their family.
But what dope did do, what this drug thing done, has removed that type of black male leadership from existing right now in this period. From the 60s. That bold black male hetero leadership is missing.
See, they got this stupid thing where if you have some success in life, you ain't a man. You're supposed to be a thug. If you got a job where you can wear a suit and tie, let alone a custom-made one, and it looks like it's got taste and is elegant, something's supposed to be wrong with you. You're supposed to be running around looking like you ought to be pushing a grocery cart with lawn bags in it. Brother, like you down in the brother just cause he pimping, man. Like that's what a brother got to do. No, it's not what you have to do, fool. There's nothing manly about pimping. That's about as low down and scurrilous and slimy as you can get at being a pimp. The only thing worse than pimps are child molesters.
Wow. But what makes a woman want a pimp or want to be on? I have met some women. Okay, they don't. Okay, what is the issue? What is this?
Let me tell you how the pimp game works.
Okay, tell me.
Preacher sets it up. Mama, grandmama, and aunts and their friend girls, they go to church all the time. They take their babies along with them. They're so young, they don't know what they're getting except propagandized. The preacher's telling all of the grown women that they're no good, low-down sinners. They're going straight to hell, but for the preacher and Jesus. So, okay. When grandmama sells 2 pieces more pie than anybody else, she gets stood up in front of the congregation and recognized. See, people have a need to be accepted as they perceive themselves. So the hoe sits up there and thinks she's low down, ugly, dumb, and stupid. Nobody likes her. And if they say she looks pretty, which she might be, if she's intelligent, which she might be, then they're just trying to run game on her and get in her drawers, which they get anyway if they got a few dollars. So she sells more nookie than the pimp's bottom hoe does on Thursday night. She gets to walk in with the pimp on his arm in the club, looking just like she came out of Black Panther magazine movie, you know. So they want to be accepted as they perceive themselves. They think they're dumb, stupid, ugly, ignorant, and the pimp tells them they're dumb, stupid, ugly, and ignorant, but he convinces them he stays there with them, and all the rest of them just trying to use her except him. So she gives him all her money. Bitch, where my money? You know, like, don't be hiding my money. Well, hell, get your ass out there, bend over, drop your drawers to your ankle, and take one up your backside. And a lot of pimps do, believe me.
Wow.
Pimps ain't high on the man scale. And, you know, it's like, I can't get away. He won't let me. Then keep your ass off the whole track. You stay away from the whole track. He's scared to come where you are. He ain't going to do a damn thing, but you got your dumb ass out on the whole track.
Oh, that's some interesting stuff. Wow.
So, pimps can't turn anybody out. They claim they can, but they can't. All they can do is parasitically be adapted to recognizing women that have extremely low self-esteem and want somebody to tell them they ain't worth a goddamn, and then do a few little nice things like pat them on the head, but most of the time treat them like they're sluts and hoes because that's the way they perceive themselves.
Now, Judge, I think people need to hear what you mean. This is powerful information because I have met former sex workers who come from the church, who come out of church home, fathers, grandfathers, ministers, but they end up becoming, sex workers and stuff with those type of guys you described.
Look, the pimp, let me tell you, me, Marvin Ballin, Stanley Fink, Melvin Turner, and a few other folk used to represent most of the pimps and hoes in Memphis back in the early 80s.
Mm-hmm.
All right. A pimp can't turn no girl into no hoe, but the preacher can. He just recognizes that she's already been turned that way. And in fact, it's not just the preacher. It's her grandmama, mama, and her aunts that turn her into the hoe with the preacher.
Wow.
And the pimp just looks at it and say, instinctively almost, yeah, there goes somebody I can be a parasite on. Yeah, I remember one pimp. He was a gorilla pimp. I mean, he was really awful. Women thought he was good looking, tall and strong, but, he jacked up his mama, jacked up his sisters, drug one chick around on chains behind his Cadillac, ground her kneecaps off, but he was scared of his two ex-wives because they sat there and had his bluff in. He was scared of them.
Wow.
But every other woman was nothing but a piece of trash. He couldn't stand his mama.
Mm-hmm.
And see, that's one of the requirements for pimps. They secretly hate their mamas because the mamas haven't done much to show their manhood and basically have enabled what the fool has become.
Mm-hmm.
So he finds these women that have been crippled and have low self-esteem and whose mothers and grandmothers, sometimes not the mama, but an aunt or a grandmother saying, I just know the Lord does put a trial and a travail on me. He gonna be making you into a slut. You look too pretty. All these men's gonna be trying to be around you. Lord, what a trial and trib Jesus done put on me. I know you just gonna be one of them awful low-class women. See, they keep telling the girl that, and it becomes self-fulfilling.
Mm-hmm.
Pimp just walks in and recognizes what he sees. They might confuse themselves and claim to be turning somebody out, but they aren't turning them out. They're just parasites, and they recognize a viable host when they see one.
Well, Joe, let me ask you this. Would could a former hoe make a good housewife?
No.
Why? Why? Tell me why. This is interesting.
One of the problems is if she's inclined to do that, she's also inclined to try and be a pimp herself.
Mm.
And her method of dealing with the opposite sex is to tear them down into manageable pieces. How many times have you heard a sister say, I got to tear that Negro down into manageable size. He think he all this and that. I got to show him what he worth.
Right.
See, that's just like how the pimp works.
I have heard women that, go ahead.
They've had some ferocious female pimps too.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's some women that used to be stoned. They become the bottoms.
Yeah, Ike and Tina Turner bit too. Ike wasn't the pimp.
He was or wasn't?
He was not.
Was Tina a pimp?
I ain't saying, but there are those who might say she was.
I think Ike Turner got a bum rap from that movie. That movie over exaggerated.
I talked to him at some great length. He was really disturbed by that. We had about a 2-hour conversation.
Wow.
After the last show I did with him aired, we were in a place called Spago.
I heard of Spago, right? Yeah. Wow. I mean, but
the chef is Wolfgang Puck.
He married to a sister, right? Wolfgang Puck. He's married to a black woman, Wolfgang.
I don't know.
Okay.
Never met his wife, but he's one hell of a cook.
All right, that's all right. But my understanding, they blocked Ike from getting his story out when he wrote his autobiography. The distributor.
Yeah, they did. We talked about it. He just said, "Man, I signed a release. I didn't know they were gonna do me that kind of way." See, and I know from growing up in L.A., we used to see Ike all the time. He and Tina had matching Rolls Royces. One I think was cream, and the other one was coffee.
Wow.
And I can't remember which one drove which. And we couldn't at the time either. But if he waved and it was Ike, he would have his homeboy stop, and he'd start telling you about staying in school, get your act together, and have a homeboy go get French fries, hamburgers, and Cokes, and we'd talk.
Oh, wow.
And Tina, she'd roll down the window, give you the shoot you the bird, and start telling you some little end, this, that, and the other. Don't you dare presume that you can say something to her.
Wow. Ain't that something?
He wasn't but like 5 feet tall.
Right. But what my thing about Ike, Tina, folks were crazy about him. She kept his last name, I see.
Yeah.
And her family said, she said that the movie was overdone.
Let me just make a long story short.
Mm-hmm.
When I ran into Ike, he and his new wife had a charity.
Okay.
What it was is they were rescuing abused women.
Really?
If a woman left the guy that was abusing her, then the money, the automobiles, and the financing they gave her or provided for her became a gift. If she went back, then it became a loan.
Ike was doing that before he died?
Yeah.
Why are we not talk? Why do people don't talk about this?
Because it ain't fitting the picture. That was part of this long calculated thing to emasculate the country and to make women and men look like villains. That's that hashtag Me Too thing where every woman is a victim when sometimes it's the other way around. I saw her do a lot of violence to him.
Oh, Tina Turner?
Yeah, unprovoked. Some extreme violence.
Here's my thing, too. I read, I think around the time he died, about almost a little bit over 10 years ago, in a magazine that Ike was not on drugs. That if he caught people using drugs at the beginning of his career, he would kick them out the band. That his abuse came in when he was on drugs. When he got on drugs, then when he started tripping or messing up.
Well, I never saw him on drugs. When I saw him, he would be lecturing us on not using them.
See, they did a number on Ike, man. They just destroyed him.
See, when we're 9, 10 years old, they had that I'm blue, shooby dooby dooby doo,
Mm-hmm.
A fortune teller told me my love with you was true. That was like 1959 or something, 58.
Mm-hmm.
And every time he saw us, he'd tell us to, keep our nose clean, don't do drugs, stay in school,
Wow. He wasn't the founding father of rock and roll. He was a music genius, man. Said that people
Yeah,
remember him for that beating of Tina Turner's clothes.
I saw her hit him with a big one of these thick rakes with a cast iron head on it because she didn't think he was working hard enough on a new song.
I used to get abused by Tina like that.
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
She's like a gorilla pimp, man.
A barbecue going on, and we were about 3 or 4 houses down. He saw us. We were out there throwing a football. I was in high school. He came over, shook hands, and did his usual spiel about stay drug free, stay in school. It's good we playing ball, but don't let it get in the way of getting your head together, blah, blah, blah. And he just said he was stuck on a song and he was doing some gardening to clear his thoughts. She came out there hollering while he's down on his knees with a trowel, yelling about hurry up. He said, well, baby, I'm just trying to get my thoughts together. And she started cussing at him. He said, there's some kids down there. Watch your mouth. She came, grabbed this rake and started beating him across the shoulders with it.
From Nutbush, the girl from Nutbush, she from Clarksdale.
Yeah, Nutbush. They're actually in Nutbush, Tennessee. I saw it years ago. I used to ride a motorcycle. And they had a convenience store, an old one that was still open, and in the bushes next to it, they had a sign that said 25 miles an hour, no motorcycles allowed.
Wow. That's like a scary place.
But see, that's imagery. Now, I don't know, we still drifted away from all this other stuff that was out there people wanted to talk about. They're talking about civility right now. I don't like this civility stuff because civility to me is code for you get to tell all the lies you want. People are supposed to politely just suggest that you might be in error rather than you just lying through your teeth about it.
Yeah, go ahead, sir. I'm sorry.
I just love it that Trump gets them so flabbergasted when he just says, go F yourself.
But it's strange, though. It's really strange. He getting treated worse by the President Obama ever thought he would. They ain't really treat Obama that bad in comparison to Trump.
Let me tell you something about white folks.
Okay.
If you're a white folk, you get a free pass unless you are an embarrassment to them. Don't be a traitor to the white way. See, that's this other thing. America is not only becoming emasculated, it is becoming extremely class conscious. They'd like to put all these rednecks in their place. Actually, rednecks and black men ought to have a lot in common. We all get jacked around in the job place, so we ought to make common cause. The powers that be have a vested interest in having each of us at the other's throats. Saying they didn't want this kind of white boy to get an education. See, when you get an education, you're that kind of white boy, what do you become?
What was that, Judge?
Bill Clinton.
You become Bill Clinton, okay.
In other words, if you're that kind of white boy and you get an education, you become Bill Clinton. You are a threat to their system. They don't like that happening. So they want you to be satisfied with working a blue-collar job. As long as those blue-collar jobs are available and sufficiently lucrative, they don't want the white boys in that level of things smartening up because they'd raise too much hell. So they get them and black folks squabbling about the good-paying blue-collar jobs.
Right.
When both groups ought to be able to lift themselves up with some cooperative action.
You see what happened when we get people like that kind of like, you look at Huey Long, they killed him because he was that type of white boy.
Yeah, but he was back in long time ago.
The 30s were very revolutionary. We almost went to revolutionary lengths in the 30s, though. The 30s was a very powerful time for union organizing and stuff.
See, FDR came along with something to say to common man, so he wasn't supposed to do that. FDR wasn't bad for black men, but his family was racist. They used to be staunch supporters of the Confederacy.
Yeah. Yep. We got the Teddy Roosevelt statue in New York still with him with his two servants or darker servants talking by his horse.
Teddy Roosevelt was a flat out racist. He issued an executive order to the army to, with any excuse, put as many black soldiers as you can contrive to do so in front of firing squads and execute them.
Mm. But they watch his legacy too. That's what they do. They love, they heroes. They invent Hollywood style narratives for him.
He kept talking about the white man's burden, or it was a disgrace to the white race.
Mm. But he did invite Booker T. Washington to the White House for dinner.
Of course, he invited that.
A lot of pushback.
He invited that useless handkerchief head to the White House. The only utility Booker T. Washington had was to the white folks by advocating the black folk to be satisfied with where you were. He was a bona fide enemy of the people.
I'm going to ask you this. I want to contrast.
B. Du Bois told everybody about it, too.
Well, I want to get your take on what's now. Compare and contrast Booker T. Washington with, let's say, Omarosa. What are your thoughts about Omarosa? Is she a hero to black folks?
What's Omarosa done?
She recorded conversations in the White House between her and the president and his chief of staff, and she wrote a book.
In other words, the question still, I know who she is.
Right.
What has she done?
Oh, what has she accomplished besides?
In other words, nothing.
All right.
See, what you got was salacious gossip.
Okay.
Facilitated by modern technology. And part of the problem we're facing is not really racism, but such as certain interests are using racism to compound a problem, which is the emasculation of the country.
Mm-hmm.
That's the real problem. And they're trying to foster bad relations between black men and white men to facilitate their emasculation of the country. See, if you get emasculation, you wouldn't have all these crazy shootings. They want to talk about toxic masculinity. I want to talk about the real definition of masculinity is that it is a set of behavioral standards, a matrix of behavioral protocols that cause men to act in a more or less acceptable way. In other words, when a male has adopted masculine protocols, he becomes a man.
Mm-hmm.
He's a man of peace until his heroism and bravery is called for. You get these gay boys, they want to look masculine, go around and spend hours in the gym working out. So what? That don't mean you have nerve. I know some little bitty guys, runts, that got more balls than somebody that looks like he's Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Right.
Because they'll stand and deliver. See, it's about behavior. That matrix of behavioral protocols that makes a man a man. And see, that's why you have no peace in the ghetto, because men are supposed to be about promoting order, prosperity, and peace. We don't, because we don't have that masculine thing in us. We've got too much bitch.
Good, Jay.
See, you take the typical thug, the hood rat, what you got is a bitch. You got a lesbian in a boy's body. Lesbian and a boy in the hood are raised the same way, like girls, dysfunctional girls. The boys like nookie, the lesbian likes nookie. The boy got boy plumbing. If the fairy godmother or some waved the magic wand and the lesbian woke up with boy plumbing tomorrow morning, there'd be no difference. That's what's going on. Yo, man, you know it's all about man pimping. No, it ain't, fool. You're just playing bitch.
And you know what? There's women out there They want a man. They want the old school man back.
Oh, they do.
They want it.
See, this is the real secret.
Mm-hmm.
Overwhelming majority of women, white and black, want that.
Yeah.
But they're getting told that they're freaks for thinking that way. But they're not. They're
Right.
normal. This abnormal stuff is not normal.
Yeah, like all this equal stuff. Like, how we equal if you're not doing the same work I'm doing? If you can't lift that much, I can lift.
Let me say something about equality.
Mm-hmm.
The real thing is it's about equality of worth, not equality of status or equality of ability.
Yes, sir.
Because it's about yin and yang, and it's a balance. The two forces, male and female, should be in balance. Male and female are not the same, but there are some overlapping points. You've seen that yin yang image where it looks like a black raindrop and a white raindrop, where the little thin part of the black is next to the thick part of the white, and the little thin part of the white is next to the thick part of the black.
Yes, sir.
What that stands for is that there are some overlapping things where women can do them. It's just that men can do them so much better. And then you go to the other side of the circle. Men can do them a little, but women do it so much better.
Right.
And you makes a complete picture where there's an equality of circumstance, but they are different colors because they represent different things. It's like, what is more valuable, a peach or a pear? Except in this case, pears are supposed to like peaches and peaches are supposed to like pears. Well, pears and apples can grow from the same tree, literally. You gotta deal with setting that up. But even if they grow on the same tree, an apple and a pear is not the same thing. But they can be of equal value. So it's about the equality of worth, not the equality of circumstance or situation. Well, how come men can do it but women can't? Well, how many guys can knock up the same woman at the same time? One. How many women can one guy knock up? A whole bunch. You know, it's still got to do with sexual dimorphism. How many bulls are in a cow's herd? One. How many cows are in a bull's herd? However many he can handle.
You know, Judge, I'm glad you brought that up. I was thinking about in a day and era where alpha men are not that many or in supply, will it be okay for alpha guys to get as many women as they can handle? Well,
you know, I've had professional women get in round table discussions with other women where I'm present saying, you know, men like me, that we ought to share him because we run into so many.
I love it.
Take care of business.
Right.
And you fuss about you don't feel like being bothered. Well, I might. And you can take a rest while I'm getting what I want. When I want to rest, you can have it for that time so he can take care of all of us rather than you running around. And by the way, this feminism is recreating the justification for a harem or a sereglo. Where one guy is capable, he can take care of the women that the other incapable males can't.
I like that. Oh, yeah, it's coming. It's to that point now.
Yeah, you gotta have your mind together. You gotta have your work, your ethic together. You gotta be able to think. And if you're running around trying to hustle, you're not contributing to the pie. You know, just leeching off of what's there, not adding anything to it.
Wow.
So, you know, how many husbands did one of Solomon's wives have?
0.
Yeah, one, him.
Right.
How many husbands did Pharaoh's wife have?
Just one. Right.
How many wives did the Pharaoh have, or the Sultan have, or did Solomon have?
As many as they want. Okay, have it.
You got Solomon is a Jew. You've got the Sultan is Islamic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you got all those English kings that had all of the substitute harems, so, you know, it ain't nothing new. It's just like Islam says, 4 wives and unlimited concubines to the extent that you can afford.
Now, I have met women that don't want to vote for a woman as president, but they're okay with sharing a man as long as he take care of business, like you said.
Yeah. Like I've run into sisters and white women say, I've worked for a woman, never again in hell do I want that to happen. So why do I want one to run stuff?
Right. Because they know they can.
Say, I ain't got a problem with a man running shit.
Now, but women do, like, when you talk to women about this, honestly, a lot of them do have a problem sharing a man. It's like they don't want to share, but they sharing a man anyway.
A lot of them don't. But what I suggest to the women, in fact, Sherazad Ali said it in a book she wrote. She said women are honest with each other, and they've got a male friend who they consider a brother or they're close to him. Ask him or think back to other male friends or brothers and say, honestly, how many of the men that they've known, not physically intimately, but just closely in life, have had just one woman? It ain't gonna happen. It might be more than one at a not it you know, it might be sequential.
Right.
But it ain't happening. And the more desirable your man is, the more he's driven. You know, like that's one thing about politicians. They've been subject to all kinds of scandal. If you think salaciously and you act like you're running a tabloid, it's because they're herd bulls.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, what's that joke? A young bull was standing on the side of a hill with his father, and they were looking down at all the cows. And the young bull said, Dad, when I grow up, you mean all of those cows are going to be mine? He said, Dad said, yep. He said, well, Dad, you mean all of mine? He said, yeah. In fact, I'm getting ready to turn them over to you now. I'm getting too old. He said, Dad, you mean if we run down there, we can screw them all? He said, nope. We can walk down there and screw them all. Save the energy.
Yes, sir.
And see, the feminists hate that. But you see, there's a movie out now. It's called Alpha. And actually, Alpha is not a male dog. It's a female wolf.
Okay.
All right. But it's supposed to be the first dog.
Mm-hmm.
And these guys are discussing hunting. And where you start off, you get this young guy who is the son of the chieftain. And they discuss how vital this one yearly hunt is to the survival of the tribe.
Mm-hmm.
But they say every time we have this hunt, some don't come back. So in other words, your task as a man is to put yourself in a position where every time we've had this hunt, some have failed to return because they got killed and walk with the ancestors. But it's your obligation and your glory to keep it up. See, that's what it's really about, being a man. But oh, that's different. That's days in the past. Well, it could be tomorrow, you know. You've got global warming. You've got a lot of land that's getting wiped out by the rising sea levels. You've got drought. You're going to have famine, crop failures. You're going to have crowding, a lot of warfare as people got to fight again. It's a matter of, you know, who's going to eat day after tomorrow or starve.
Mm-hmm.
So masculinity, which is humankind's way of dealing with stress and danger, will have to become more paramount. But right when it's about to happen again, these clowns in this country are trying to destroy it. Remember, it's not about looks and appearance. It's about behavior. It's about a behavioral matrix, a set of protocols where the masculine human male becomes his own control factor, where you don't need police for law and order.
You know what, Judge? It's interesting you say that, 'cause I was thinking about, I have a supervisor job at one of my jobs I do, and the women don't have no problem with me, how I talk, and, you know, I got this voice, but it's be the men That they tell, well, you talking a certain tone I don't like, but the women like that.
Oh yeah,
They like that. This stern, like, yeah, he authoritative. Yes, sir. But it'd be the guys that complain because a lot of them like single parent homes or just very feminine. They got women and stuff, but they're feminine.
They didn't see men, let alone alpha men. They're beta boys, soy boys, and they should be in a subsidiary position. They got taught to be there by their mammies, so they didn't get the man training. Now the women get, and by the way, it turns them on. They get hot, wet, and bothered with
it helps. It helps. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying. I hear what you're saying, Judge. Yep.
Whereas never get nookie off your looks, get it off of your masculinity.
That's some problems. Yeah, a lot of guys need to hear what you're saying. I just think you're so relevant right now because we're not getting this.
Guys, as a man, the problem is your masculinity lacks. Well, yeah, I'm going to the gym. That's not the kind of masculinity I'm talking about. The kind of masculinity I'm talking about, the women can sense. They get wet in their panties when they run into it.
Yes, sir.
Look like a donut. You can get over because, like they say, you either may have the physical bulk or you got the bank account. One will do as good as the other, and the bank account will do better in the long run.
I know that's right. Yes, sir. But it's just refreshing to have these kind of conversation because a lot of times they're trying to censor people. Like, you tell the truth, that's hate speech. Telling the truth about what's going on is hate speech now.
Yeah, hate speech is truth. There's always been a defense in American law, an absolute defense. You know what it is? Truth.
Wow.
See, that's the way to cut off defamation or action. This is alleged truth. All right, let's test it. I claim it's true.
Wow.
You a punk ass. All right. I'll take that position and I can prove your ass is a punk ass.
All right. And I got to ask you something about this. I mean, what are your thoughts about Aretha Franklin? Are you familiar with her? I mean, have you ever met the lady before, or are you familiar with her works? And
I'm familiar with her work.
Okay.
I mean, she's not that much older than me. So, yeah, I'm familiar with it.
So what are your thoughts about her legacy?
Excellent. She wasn't my favorite artist.
Okay.
But I always liked her.
It's like she likes strong men, too. Like she values strong black men.
Yeah. She's from Memphis.
Right.
Strong women like strong men. I like strong women. I don't like any little weak, mushy woman that, you can walk all over.
Right.
Because, like, what is she adding to my mix? That's like an ego problem. I don't want somebody that just reflects me back. Come on, show me something else.
That's true, too.
I stand up and posture in front of a mirror and get the same thing you're giving me. My ego does not require that.
Well, let me ask you this, like, about Aretha. She, yes, definitely was born in Memphis, and her house still stands. And a black woman owns that house right now, but the city, I don't know what's going on. They're trying to, I know you deal with the Lorraine Motel back in the 80s. Like, I told somebody when I went there.
It was my idea to make the damn thing a museum.
Right. But they don't.
Randy Wade, Walter Bailey, not the one that's on the county commission as a lawyer, but the one that owned the Lorraine Motel.
Right. And yeah, A.W. Willis, too. You say A.W. Willis?
A.W. Willis, he put the package together. A.W. Willis collapsed, had 2 weeks to live, turned out. The Army Bailey's office submitted the package that he had gotten pre-signed, and then they claimed they were the founders. It wasn't him. It was A.W. Willis, Joe Brown, Randy Wade, Chuck Scruggs, and Walter Bailey, no relation to the Army Bailey.
So how y'all gonna tell that story? That story needs to be told then. Why it has not been told?
I'm telling it to you. It'll get out there.
Yes, sir. Well, what I'm saying is, like, that movie, The Founder, about Ray Kroc, who didn't found McDonald's, but he took it to the next level.
Well, I was there for the very first McDonald's. You know what the secret to McDonald's was, don't you?
No, sir.
it was not about selling hamburgers. It was selling and paying for real estate, but you paid for it by selling burgers. So I attended a lecture. The first one they had was in this huge parking lot in Pasadena, outside of L.A. It was dark, the same color British racing green. You see some Jags that color. And the guy that started it invented these milkshake machines. You know, the kind with the metal container with the rod. They put the ice cream and stuff in it and then stick it up over the rod. And they put half of it in a glass and then you get the rest in the metal container.
That's it.
Well, that's what he got started with. So you just walked up to any side of it from this huge parking area and you got a milkshake, and I think they had 3-cent burgers, and you'd buy some of those, and then somebody bought the property. So he had to move, and he got another property not far from there, and then somebody bought that, and then it was quicker than with the first one. Then he bought another one, so I guess he just got the idea of selling real estate, you know, but paying for the note by selling burgers.
I mean, actually, like, yeah, you talking about Ray Kroc? He didn't found McDonald's, but the McDonald brothers actually made McDonald's. But that's how he got it from them. He did start buying the real estate. That's how he took McDonald's from the McDonald brothers.
Well, but the guy that did that was the one that invented the milk shake.
Right, Ray Kroc. Yeah, definitely Ray Kroc.
That was what they started off selling milkshakes, and then they added 3-cent burgers.
Yeah, but he took it from the McDonald brothers by doing that. Yeah, he took it by getting the real estate part down. Because in the movie, it talks about that. Ray Kroc is played by Michael
Keaton. I didn't see the movie, but I heard the man give a lecture at UCLA one time.
Ray Kroc?
I can't even remember his name, probably.
Yeah, that's the guy. But The Founder is a good movie to look at because it shows you how American white businessmen operate, how they're ruthless like that. Because he was very tenacious and ruthless and strategic about how he got the business from the McDonald brothers.
Yeah, well, they were very ruthless and tenacious to him. And by the way, it kills me when somebody says, it was just beer, man. Dude might have been stealing, wasn't worth his life. Well, see, when somebody's got to deal with a ruthless business atmosphere, it might be, shoot this fool. He's
That's true. I agree with you, Judge. You're right about that. I don't think
it's a dumbass to go out there and start stealing.
Right.
And how many times have I heard you talking stuff before? Man, somebody just ripped my new battery out my car, man. I couldn't get where, man, I've been hanging out with my shotgun, man, waiting to catch me some fool. I'm going to waste his ass. Well, there you go. You already said what prompted what you protested about right now.
That's interesting. Wow. What do you think should be done, like the woman with the Aretha Franklin home? Like they're trying to take it away from her some type of way or not compensate her properly?
They have to. Say you can exercise eminent domain if the acquisition or reacquisition of the thing is in the best public interest.
So they
can get all title from the state, so the state can revoke the title, exercise eminent domain. They have to pay you for the reasonable property value of the thing they're taking back. So yeah, they can certainly come in and do that and make it a monument.
I mean, it is already, yeah. So what I'm saying is, so they could just, I mean, like, with the Lorraine Motel, they were about to demolish it, right? It was about to get demolished.
Well, yeah, that was the idea.
So y'all was able to stop that, though, right? I mean, like,
nobody was coming in to take it. It was just that it was a hoe house. Right? It's been used on the hoe track for years. Even King, when he was in there, it was a hoe house.
Yeah, because he didn't stay there. He stayed there. He stayed somewhere else.
He wasn't supposed to be there because it was on the hoe track.
Yeah, they got him killed.
Thing is that they weren't trying to take it. It was just that the owner, Walter Bailey, not the one that's still around being the attorney, but the Walter Bailey that owned the Lorraine Motel, was ready to get rid of it.
So I know with the Aretha Franklin birth home, like they try to demolish it at one point and move it to another place, another location. It caught on fire, but the structure still remained intact. So I guess it's just weird that, now is a place that is like a monument, right? Like I went there the day she died. It was very powerful. It seems like a very powerful magnetic thing, but it would be only fair if the woman could get some money, but he said they ain't gonna probably get her anything for it. They could just take it from her and just give her whatever market value is.
Did you ever see Lady Sings the Blues?
Yes, sir.
What did you think of that?
I thought it was not accurate, but it was entertaining.
My aunt, who actually looked like, her name was Bertha Hint, for 10, 11 years, she used to be Billie Holiday's roommate. Now, Bertha Hint looked a little darker than Diana Ross and had the same kind of build. But Bertha Hinton could not stand that movie because they faked it so much. Like that thing with the dope problem, it wasn't as bad as they put it off in the movie, according to Bertha Hinton. That was my aunt.
Okay.
By the way, she had wound up with a PhD, and she became head dietitian in a hospital in the Beverly Hills area called Cedars of Lebanon, where all the rich folk went. So she died in the 90s. She'd written a bunch of poetry.
Is it available online to read, or how I get access?
You might be able to find it.
Oh, that's amazing. But it goes back to what we talked about, what love's got to do with it. That a biopic about Tina Turner, how they lied on Ike Turner, how they grossly misrepresented him. Because even Tina Turner said they overdid it. She said they overdid it.
See, they had a message. They've been trying to systematically destroy manhood.
Right.
They call it toxic masculinity, but there's no such thing. What they're calling toxic masculinity is essentially the absence of masculinity. Remember, masculinity is a set of behavioral protocols. Behavioral.
You breaking up. You said a masculinity is behavior protocols, you said?
Yeah, I define it as that matrix.
Hello, Judge? Judge?
Yeah.
Yeah, you were breaking up. I couldn't hear the last part. Hello?
You there?
Yeah, I'm there. I can hear you now.
I said I define masculinity as, quote, that matrix of behavioral protocols that more or less control the male human in his actions. It's what makes men. It's a set of behavioral standards that he gets brainwashed with growing up. So he finds it extremely difficult to deviate from those standards. It's called socialization and acculturation. And when they change the socialization and acculturation of males so that young males are not conditioned to behave in a masculine fashion, you have a lot of violence.
As we see play out right now. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Fight like a man, no hitting below the belt.
But that would happen to our education system. The kids are out of control because a lot of women heading everything.
Yeah, and I'll tell you about that. A friend of mine, Cliff Stewart, myself, another guy named Ron Chappelle, who's now Dr. Ron Chappelle. We ran a playground, one of the worst in L.A., but every Wednesday we'd take 200 first through seventh grade kids to movies in downtown L.A. We got UCLA to provide transportation. It was just the three of us, and we would get these kids behaving like they were angels. Patrons would say they didn't even realize kids were in the movie theater, so we could go anytime we wanted. But there were 9 or 10 sisters that were doing a program with somewhere between 5 and 10 kids. And when they'd bring them, the 9 or 10 of them couldn't keep these 10 kids in line, and the 3 of us young males would have to straighten them out so we wouldn't lose the privilege. So that masculine input was enabled us to control these males. One of our more interesting young men was a skinny 12, then 13-year-old kid who became the singer Barry White, the late Barry White.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the other kids, same age, we couldn't save him because of his mother, so we couldn't get him out of the swamp, so he became the baddest alligator in the swamp. That was Tookie Williams, who started the Crips.
Mm-hmm.
Last person they executed on California's death row.
But like I guess the thing about that was like it's like Schwarzenegger was going to pardon him if he admitted to doing the crimes, and he didn't want to admit to doing those crimes that he was accused of. Like he did a lot of bad things, but he said I didn't do those bad things. So he had a man code, right? At the end, right? He had a moral code, you would say?
Yeah, he did. We kind of put it in his head when he was 12, 13 years old. We kept talking about manhood. He adopted that.
Mm-hmm.
So there are some interesting stories over the years in between that illustrated that.
Mm-hmm.
But we tried. We just had too many single mamas.
And so what's the remedy for single moms? It's like they pick, I mean, women select certain type of guys, right? I mean,
they don't select anybody. They just want to get knocked up.
Okay.
They pick somebody they think is pretty. So you might have a situation where the woman's got 8, 9, 10 kids by 6, 7, 8 different baby daddies, and 1 or 2 of the kids don't look like the rest of them, and they may or may not do well if the daddy's cool and gets involved.
So really, the problem is the women. Women causing these problems that we're having right now.
The women, it's the women. There's a remedy to it. Keep your legs closed until you get married, or you can exercise some sound discretion off of who you sleep with, or be responsible and use birth control. I think last count they had 62 different kinds of birth control. You can talk about guys using rubbers, but the only foolproof version is what the woman uses. And then too often it's like, man, what's wrong, man? Oh, man, I ain't had none, man. Oh, man, you won't get laid, man? Go down on 27th Street, man. You know where they got that cul-de-sac, man? They got an old fat broad up there with 2 gold teeth in front of her mouth. Tamadika, man. You walk down the street, man. You can go do that right when we get through talking, man. And just walk down and just look up if she's sitting out there and say, oh, damn. And when you get her attention, say, damn, baby, you so fine. I bet she give you something for half hours out.
Wow.
And then see, did you get in it? Yeah, man. You know, fast, smelly, bro. But, man, I need to get it off, man. It's been a long time since I got something, man. I couldn't tell whether I was doing it or fold, man, but I got off. She thinks she fine. Yeah, I'm fine. All these men love me. No, they just, you're a quick lay.
Right. What about I meet women that are very educated and very accomplished, and they still single. They want kids, but they approaching 50. And what's the issue then? I mean, you got a class of women.
Well, you know what it is. Some of them just have lousy attitudes.
Yeah.
They're okay as long as they're at a distance, but you wouldn't want to take one of them home and have to deal with them every day.
No, just have fun with them. I mean, be honest with you.
Yeah, for benefits, and leave it at that.
Yeah, but can they realize that they are their own worst enemies, though? It's not the black men. Okay.
They do not realize that. I say, no, baby, it ain't what's wrong with the dude. It's just you're difficult to get along with. Men just scared they don't like strong women.
No.
Some don't, but some don't care. Some like it. But you got a disagreeable streak to you.
Yeah. I know a woman was telling me about her son-in-law. She was very disappointed in him because she don't like how her daughter treats her son-in-law. Like he's henpecked, and she tried to tell him to get some balls. And he's 35 years old, but I mean, he is who he is. And he got kids that look up to him. He got sons that look at him getting dropped around by his mom, by his wife.
My shit.
Mm-hmm.
See, real women don't like that because it builds bad habits. It's like, okay, your ass in charge. What we gonna do now? What do you mean? What we gonna do now? Well, you've been practicing being in charge. What we gonna do now? Somebody just broke in downstairs. What we gonna do? Well, you're going to go down and see to them. I mean, but yeah, but you know, I done got out that habit being around you.
Right. I'm saying, even though women want a man to take charge, though, you know what I'm saying? But a lot of men want, well, let's share the responsibility. No, take charge.
Yeah, but you know what the whole deal is about? The deference that a woman is supposed to be giving a guy. It's like you don't always need your car insurance, but you make those payments just in case you do.
Right.
If a woman isn't willing to take care of her side of the bargain and make those payments, then is very reluctant. Well, not it's very, but a lot of guys are very reluctant to make the rest of the commitment. Just because you may like the person as long as you don't have to deal with them but so much. But if you got to come home to them every day, that may be your worst enemy.
Yeah. But my thing, my peace of mind is my everything at my home. I just can't have no women that can't agree to submit to a certain level to what I'm trying to do or take directions. I mean, she could be her own personality, but she got to respect the chain of command.
And then see, it used to be if you were taking care of your homework or your business at home, they didn't mind if you slipped and got a little bit of peace on your side hobby.
Right, right. But a lot of these kids can't take care of their home. They got to do this co-pay, co-partner thing. I'm like, man.
Yeah, I know.
You can't respect them.
It's like they got raised by somebody that over-mamaed them.
Yeah, there's a lot of kids like that. They got children, and so they create another generation of people like that.
Exactly.
And that's disturbing.
See, it used to be that a woman knew what a man was supposed to be about, and she encouraged us boys to be that way. Nowadays, they're mad at the daddy, so they don't want the boy to be anything like daddy. So they tried to raise the boy to be something other than daddy, and what they wind up doing is raising something else. Is not good to anybody.
I hear you, Judge. You sure telling them. You just tell them like it is, man. You ain't pulling no punches.
I'm just saying this from a man's perspective. Here's another thing. You don't have a daddy around. You don't hear the men talk about the women. All you hear is the women talk about the men.
Right. And why would you want to be one of those things that women talk bad about? You ain't hearing the other side of the story.
Dogs, all of them dogs. Okay. I'm a dog. Hey, dog, what's happening, man? Well, you see these bitches, man. That's why we get to thinking about women close to us as bitches. That's because they've been calling us dogs. Except the thing is they are our elders, so we get brought up thinking of ourselves as dogs.
Right. So you lay down with dogs, you get fleas, right? We all in the same game.
That's where that N-word came from. We didn't say that, but I saw it developing in the 70s where you got all these single-parent females. They were mad at the boy's daddy, and they started calling him all kinds of N's this and N's that, and the boys just heard N's this, and they ain't nothing but dogs. I hear you, honey, all of them dogs, all these N's is after the same thing. They get to thinking of themselves that way.
Yeah, so I mean, like,
also nobody used that word.
So, Judge, you know, you're going to get a lot of women that be listening to this show. They get mad when you be on the show talking about what you talk about.
Goddamn. I give less than a goddamn. I'm speaking truth and wisdom, and they need to learn from it, and they have a much better time than some of them are having with their miserable existences right now.
You know what's interesting?
They ain't running around looking for a girlfriend, so forget that.
I know what's interesting. Go ahead, so I'm sorry, sir.
I'm just saying, I'm just trying to convey observations and some reality. And realities are what they are, whether you like them or not. Or say an inconvenient truth.
Right, inconvenient truth. And like I was thinking about a couple of things. One was like the girl from TLC, the music group, Chili. Like she said, she don't date nothing but white men. That other black women should date outside the race. But it's like we were talking about earlier. Is it a problem with the man or is it a problem with you?
Both. See, the secret to slavery was it didn't work without the complicity of the black woman. The black man, on the other hand, was supposed to have kept it from happening, but the black woman made it happen. She's been collectively mad at black men for allowing it to happen and disrespecting black men because it happened. and allying herself with white men because that gives her an advantage. White men have white wives at home and black women on the side to play with.
Mm. Wow. And Judge, let me ask you this question before. I mean, I know it's like
I'm not down at all sisters. It's just that's the way it works out sometimes. It's not good.
Well, I think that we should have an honest dialogue between us, not go through.
They call me misogynistic and all kinds of other shit, and I say, hey, you know what? I've been laid an awful lot in my life, and you don't exactly strike me as the kind I would have liked to have been laid by when I was really deep into getting laid. So,
I heard that. And speaking of Judge, I want to ask you about this. I know that Aretha Franklin, like 9-hour marathon funeral. A lot of people, we got social media now, so people can really respond and have a voice. And folks were talking about how the bishop, I guess, put his hands on the young lady singer, Ariana Grande. She sung, and people felt like she was uncomfortable with him, like putting his hand around her waist. They said he groped her breast on, national television. Well, she didn't say anything, but he said he apologized for the he was joking with her about her name being.
Shut his mouth and they said, when she complains, I'll say something.
Yeah, but you know how people are now. People get all afraid.
I know how they are. They need to get themselves some business.
Because they were talking about how Bill Clinton and Reverend Jesse Jackson were looking at her because she had a real short dress on.
Well, yes, of course. See, what the hell? It's called Boys and Girls 101A and 101B. It works that way. So you got a bunch of lesbians and folk with XX chromosomes that wish they had an XY, and others who are otherwise anti-man, and they want to get upset. That's why women all throughout history have tried to dress sexually and alluringly to get the attention of men. That's why through the bird kingdom, the mammal kingdom, and every other goddamn thing, you got sexual attraction. Guess what? That's reality. So just because you suddenly don't like it in the last 10, 15 years doesn't mean it's changed.
And she got her attention that she wanted.
The thing is, people get taught, act like you do in front of the camera as you do when the camera ain't around. Okay, fine. If the woman ain't complaining, then shut the hell up. It's none of your goddamn business.
I mean, but she got the attention that she wanted because she haven't said anything about it.
Well, she did it. Nobody made her go do that, but it's like money.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing against the law about having legitimate currency of the United States of America in your pocket, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with a babe looking fine.
Right.
Definitely nothing wrong. But if you walk down in the hood and got the flash in your bankroll, what the hell's going to happen to you?
You get robbed.
Yeah, people will look at you and hijack your ass.
Mm-hmm.
So what do? You keep it in your pocket and you don't flash it.
Right.
If you got all of the flesh to flash and you're a fine female and you flash it, the least is going to happen is the straight guys are going to look at your ass.
Right, because if you're a man, you like women, you're going to look. I'll be looking. You know what I'm saying?
The radar works. That doesn't mean off because some goddamn lesbian has been out of shape about it.
Or if you get married, you're still going to look. I don't care.
Yeah, the radar, even if you get over age, you're
going to look.
The radar is all automatic.
That's right.
So she wanted to be looked at, otherwise she wouldn't have worn it. Just like if you wanted to get your ass hijacked to challenge somebody, you flashed your money.
Right. Yes, sir.
You may have had a result you didn't anticipate.
Mm.
Yeah, you got a right to wear whatever you want that you're a woman. But you ought to have sense enough to expect the reaction that is going to generate whether or not you intended to go that far. And remember, there are a lot of people that don't have manners.
Yes, sir.
And there used to be a rule in American law. There was no harm in asking at least once.
Mm. Well, Judge, I want to thank you once again for this wonderful and very...
Now, you should treat women nicely, but I mean, goodness, you wear a micro mini dress to a funeral?
Yeah.
What's your point? You're going to, it's a woman, it's a corpse. Who are you trying to appeal to?
But it's a thing though. It is double standard because the Me Too movement. They took a hit recently with the accusation of the Asia Argento, the Italian actress who accused Harvey Weinstein of raping her.
Yeah,
They said you heard about that, right?
17-year-old boy, yeah.
Right, and she was
payoff and some little thing that was gender neutral was telling on her because it wanted justice done.
Right. Then Anthony Bourdain, he killed himself supposedly, and he won the payoff. He did the payoff for her, I believe.
Yeah. He's a strange bird. Well, I don't appreciate being called that, the masculine program. Well, let's put it this way. You got a dick, you ain't got a pussy, so what the hell are you supposed to be? If you reject being a man and you're not a woman, he, she, that leaves it, so you're an it?
Well, it was interesting. I had a college classmate, former college classmate. Her sister was mauled by a cougar up in Washington State, I believe, and she didn't identify with that. She identified as they. She was like, I guess, gender neutral or whatever.
There ain't no such damn thing as gender neutral. Human beings have had he, she, it in every damn language since day one. He, she, it, and they keep coming up with fluid gender. That's a bunch of crap with some fluid mind that needs to gel into having good common sense.
Well,
human males and females have been about the business of boys and girls 101 A and B and attracting each other. That's why we've got 7-point-some billion people on this planet. It works. So you want to cut that off?
So why are people allowing them to do this stuff in education classrooms like in California and other places?
Well, foolishness and being a fool can be very widespread.
Mm-hmm. That's so, Judge, I want to thank you once again for another thought-provoking and enlightening conversation. And Judge, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you if they want to have these conversations?
You can catch me, even though I don't have the blue check. It's Judge Joe Brown TV on Twitter.
Okay, Judge.
I will answer you, but I might get on your last nerve if I call you foolish. But I will if I think you are. And like I say, I'm about manhood and womanhood. I don't care about the in-betweens. That may be their right to practice it, but it's my right to call it foolish.
Well, thank you, Judge. You are entitled to your opinion. Thank you so much for sharing it with the rest of the world. Like, people are really enjoying these conversations.
And remember, it's about equality of value, not equality of status.
Thank you so much.
You don't understand the difference. Go develop your cognitive skills until you do understand the difference.
All
right, brother, I'm out of here.
Well, thank you so much, Judge. We love you madly, man. Keep on producing and pushing.
Okay, take it easy.
Yes, sir.